thank you, Didi Chising, for spearheading this very useful and meaningful, session that is an opportunity for people from all over the place, all over the world even, and mainly Malaysia, of course, to be part of this learning in the comfort of your home. I think any learning opportunity is a good learning opportunity, because when we are when we call ourselves Dhamma practitioners, I think the important thing is, how do we learn? How we learn is actually more important than what we learn. I think I'd like to begin with this before I go into the topic proper. What we learn is the subject matter, which I think today, with the internet and of course the latest is the AI, ChatGPT, has changed the world of knowledge and how we accumulate and get knowledge. If you want to learn about Buddhism, I think ChatGPT will do a finer job than any one of us combined. Ask any question about Buddhism, you will find it all there. And some of my friends have tested it, and it seems to be very, very accurate and very good, well written, well presented. If you want to learn about that, that's all there. So these days we are very fortunate, because we have an opportunity to get a lot of good information, not from masters, but from the artificial intelligence, and that's wonderful. So and it's important that we give more questions to the ChatGPT, so that ChatGPT becomes more Buddhist, and learn how to be a Buddhist, and perhaps he's more, the AI is now more converted to speak more true Buddhism, for us. But I think it's not just about what we learn; it's also how we learn, the approach we take, the orientation of the mind, and the attitude we take towards learning. That's important. That in fact that itself is what we call the learner perspective. So for you to attend a Dhamma talk, when you come in from a learner perspective, what you are doing is you are learning whatever has imparted. But if we come from an angle of, I want to learn more about this Buddhism and things like that, then we are just here to listen to a lecture. Yeah, so that's slight difference. It's a slight twist there. So hopefully we all come from that perspective, and I think those of you who are used to the session, you will listen to something I say, and then later on there'll be time for some questions, answers, and so on and so forth. So that's the format now. So, all right, give me a thumbs up if you think that's all right. And that, yeah, okay. That will be very helpful. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. If you don't want to give a thumbs up, you can give something else. If you decide to, I think there are other emojis here. Let me see. Okay, never mind. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to start to share my slides. Let me just put it out here. And here goes my session. Now, the topic that was, that was actually given, or rather mooted, was about wisdom and compassion. And as I looked at the originally what was given to me, I saw the topic, and I felt that, yeah, it's nice to have that, but I thought I want to encapsulate that into what it means. And so I've coined this topic, like wise kindness and kind wisdom, as what Brother Ang mentioned very clearly. It's about kindness, and it's also about wisdom. And how are these two related? Why are they related? And are they even, the same thing? And let's explore that, So I call it cultivating wisdom and compassion for well-being, because that's exactly what we want. What is the single most desired thing that we all want in life? How do we get them? You may have your own perception about what is the single most desired thing we all want in life. And I know you are here to learn, and most of you are Buddhists, I presume. I think the standard answer is all there. We want happiness. Fine. But reality is like that now, let me tell you. Sometimes we feel like this, don't we? Yeah, how many of you feel like this? I know sometimes I do feel like this. Life just doesn't work I don't like this. I hate this. Why can't things go in a certain way? Why do people are like this? And so on and so forth. That's reality. Sometimes we feel like this. And yet, the thing we want the most and we thought that we could have is what we call this happiness. We wish we can have this. So between the one side and the other, we want both. Both come into our life. We have times where we have joys, and there are times we have sorrows. There are times we feel good. There are times we feel terrible, and that's and we go around in our life with these these two aspects, right? That's reality because that's how life is. And when you go and learn, and many of us, because we have this thing, and we sometimes incline more towards the left side, which is terrible, then some of us try to control the situations around so that we can get more on the right side, the happiness. Unfortunately, things doesn't go that way. So then at some point in time, somebody mentions Buddhist Gem Fellowship has a Gem e-learning. Let's try and see whether that will bring me towards the positive side a lot more. So we give it a shot, and hopefully some of us will be able to get it. So yeah, we search for solutions, right? We search for solutions all the time. Some of us search for more worldly solutions. If only I can have this, then I think I should feel better about this. I'll tell some, for example, if only I don't have this kind of boss, then I will be happy. If only I have more of this and less of that, I will be happy. That seems to be the way in which we operate in the world. We all want something and we don't seem to get it, not in a way that's permanent, because just when we thought it's all right, then sometimes something's changed and we fall back to the other side. So it's hard to maintain this kind of thing. And you thought by coming and learn about Buddhism, I can find the answers, And then even during the Buddha's time, people do have these kind of questions. How do I find happiness? And they go to the Buddha expecting him to give an answer that will probably give you a formula how to find more happiness. Then here comes the Buddha, and this is what he tells us. Now, this is the noble truth of suffering. Oh my goodness. That's the first thing he tells. This is so characteristic of Buddhism. And you know what? You can't even deny it, we can't even deny it. He says this is the noble truth of suffering. There is suffering, there is dukkha, and it's very hard to argue against that. That's why it's called the truth. And he goes on to say, rebirth is suffering, old age is suffering, illness is dukkha, death is dukkha. The very existence is dukkha, in other words. Association with the disliked or unpleasant is dukkha. Separation from the light is dukkha. Not getting what you wish for is dukkha. In brief, the 5 grasping aggregates are dukkha. I'll explain 5 grasping aggregates maybe some other times, but what it means is that we hold on to the very things that make us who we are, and that is what we call dukkha. And that's reality. So here comes the Buddha, fully enlightened being. In one sweep, he just says, this is it. This is reality. Tough luck, right? Of course, he didn't say tough luck. He just said, this is it. That's reality, So what do we do with this? And the Buddha didn't stop there. He goes on to say, why do we experience such things? Why do we have this? And he says, this is the second noble truth, the origin of dukkha. It is the craving that leads to future lives, mixed up with relishing and greed, chasing pleasure in various realms. That is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving to continue existence, and craving to end existence. That is the reason why we continue to experience what we call dukkha. So here is just reality staring directly in our face, and we don't have a solution. But the Buddha said, no, there is. Don't, hang on, hang on, hang on. Don't think so negative yet. And here because we all want happiness and well-being. We do not want the kind of dukkha. That dukkha is not something we want. We want happiness and well-being. And the Buddha says, there is a noble truth to the cessation of suffering. That the dukkha comes to an end. Dukkha does come to an end. It is a fading away cessation of the very same craving, nothing left over, giving it away, letting it go, releasing, not clinging to it. What it means is that the happiness that most, in fact, all Buddhists talked about is not the happiness of gaining, but the happiness of losing. It's a different paradigm of how we define happiness, because most of people in our life, including myself, we define and we chase happiness that about obtaining, gaining, getting. That's why we work hard to gain, to experience, to achieve, to get there. And the Buddha says that is only going to make more dukkha, in that sense. So here is trying to tell us there is an end. Okay, there is an end. It comes to an end. Now, I won't go too detail about this because this could be other topics. I just want to tell you why I say these kind of things here. There's a reason. Let me just tell you. The Buddha says, a lot of people, yes, okay, I understand. So how? Okay, how do I do this? A lot of us, we have the two extremes. One is called indulgence in sensual pleasures. Okay, that is a cause for us not getting satisfied, because when we keep indulging in the pleasures of the senses, there's no end to what we are gaining and getting and all that. Okay, that's one extreme. When we keep doing things like that, then the very thing we call happiness keeps getting further and further away from us, because we are only continuing this thing that will give us more. Why? Because the more things we have, the more we want to protect, the more we want to, hang on, and so on and so forth. And when it's taken away from us, we can't help ourselves. We feel despair and things like that. So that's why indulgence, too much of it, is going to lead to a lot of, in the extreme case. But the other extreme is also not recommended. The Buddha says, many of us, we have also this thing called self-punishment. We judge ourselves. We punish ourselves. We are our biggest critic sometimes. So we tend to say, oh, I'm not good. So, okay, from now on, I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do this. And then we say, I cannot do this. So we are judge, we are jury, we are executioner of ourselves. That's what it means by indulgence in self-mortification, self-punishment. Thinking that we are moving to the other side. Since they say I should not indulge so much, I will move to the other extreme. And there are many people who actually do that in life. I know of someone, who actually, knowing that her life is not very, very good in a certain way, not leading her anywhere, and because she's been living the kind of life that is so pleasurable, everything she gets and all that, she's not feeling that there is happiness, and she feels so guilty about it now, and says, okay, from now on, I'm going to go the other way. So she completely changed course and almost like 180-degree turn and move to the other extreme. No more contact with friends, no more contact with people, start to be very obsessed with, with punishing herself, moving into the guilty angle, so that I feel less guilty. I mean, people like this. A simple example, you like chocolate cake, and you have a lot of chocolate cake, and then after that you feel guilty about it, right? Says, this is too sinful, he says. So then the next day you go the other extreme. Okay, I will not have any. And you starve yourself from all that, so that's what it means. You go the other extreme. So Either of these extremes doesn't work according to the Buddha. This is where I want to come to the wisdom side. What does it mean when we say don't cultivate the two extremes? The Buddha says the only way out of all this is called the middle way. Again, I won't go into details. What it means is the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path is the middle way. When we do the right things in the right way and following the teaching, following the framework. In fact, the Noble Eightfold Path is what we call a framework for life, actually, how we live our life based on certain principles and certain practices. And by doing so, we are inevitably cultivating the middle way, not going to either extremes. Okay, so that's what it means by practicing the middle way. So okay, this is just my setting the scene about how reality of life is and what did the Buddha say we should do in theory. But in reality, the path of practice is not a straightforward path. It's not so straightforward. How nice if we just follow the formula and everything is magically, how nice if we attend the GEM learning for how many sessions? Maybe 10 sessions or whatever number of sessions, and that's it. Our life is transformed. I mean, if that's the case, I'm telling you, Brother Ang, we will earn tons of money because you can charge people for this. Because, and you have people who do that. It's not so straightforward. Unfortunately, we don't have a formula that says do it this way to be fair, I won't say that Dhamma is wrong. I would say because the reason is because of habits. We all have our habits. We all have our past conditioning that will somehow propel us to behave, to do things in a certain way, and we feel as if we have control over our life. In reality, we don't. Because of what? Because of habits. Okay, so very simple. And what the Buddha is trying to tell us is, look, we all have habits. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You want to blame something, okay? Don't even blame your parents. It's not their fault either, right? Actually, it's nobody's fault. Why? Because all this has been accumulated over a long period of time in our entire life, and according to our teaching, actually it goes beyond one life, previous lifetimes, over a long, I don't know how many long, but very long period of time and space. If you want to exaggerate, and actually it's not exaggeration, it's true, how many universes have been come to be, and how many universes have ended, and how many multiverses have we been to come to where we are today in this life? Oh my goodness. This is why we are like that. This is why we are like this. We have habits. So it's not so straightforward, because we have habits. What are habits? Something you do often and regularly, sometimes without knowing that you're doing it. That's what it means by habits. This is the definition according to the dictionary. But what I want to, maybe let me tell you, maybe it's not really a real story, but I read it somewhere. So once upon a time, one taxi driver, these days you call them Grab driver or whatever driver, so he picked up a passenger from the airport, and this passenger didn't know the way to the place, not very familiar, but this Grab driver, he was just driving along, and the passenger was sitting right behind. And of course, after a while, it doesn't seem quite right, because it seems to go into a certain place that doesn't seem to look so familiar, and that passenger behind maybe wanted to tell the driver, hey, go this way, don't go the other way. So he wanted to get the driver's attention, and he tapped the shoulder from the behind. He tapped the shoulder of the Grab, the driver, and all of a sudden the driver just lost control of the of the car and crashed somewhere. Okay, that's what happened. And then it's like, oh my goodness. So of course nothing really serious happened. He says, oh, I'm so sorry, you really, it's not your fault. It's not your fault because the passenger probably thought it was his fault. He says, it's not your fault. You know why? Because for the last 20 years, I have been driving the hearse, the funeral car, I know the so, anyway. Some of you may get the joke, but if you don't get it, just so what I want to illustrate is habits. Okay, that conditioning. For 20 years, I've been driving that. You suddenly you tap my shoulder. So anyway, okay. So back to where we are. Yeah. Okay, so we have conditioning, right? In our whole life, if you look at it, actually most of us are like this one. We don't have a choice one. We are acting because we are being programmed. Anyone who are programmers here, or any computer science, or any, if you are, you will understand. Programs have been written in our life for many, many lifetimes. Today, we are running the program that we have written. And that's why this program is there. And this program inside there also got a lot of bugs and funny things, and now you say, okay, I want to make a change. I want to do something. You go back to that same program that you probably did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You look at the code and you say, oh my goodness, I don't even recognize it. And that's what happened to us. I don't know what kind of person I was. And what did I do? What choices I made at that point in time that today I am what I am? That's because those habitual tendencies have continued for a very, very long time. Today, we are running that program. That's why it's hard. That's why we don't have control. Okay? I'm painting you a very bleak picture, but that's reality, isn't it? I'm just reflecting to us. Okay? I'm not telling us that there's no hope. There is hope. Okay, don't go yet. There is hope. There is hope. But we just have to know what to do. Okay, so now we try to say habits, and then we say, can we control our habits? Reality is we are running our programs. The more you try to go and control and try to redo that program and things like that, sometimes these programs have been embedded so deeply that it is very, very hard to change. You try changing. Okay, let me just, how many of you are programmers or know anything about programming? No? Or you hear somebody who says, okay, Rang, if you go backwards and try to remember what you have written for the last 5 years, you probably don't even recognize who was that guy who written that program. And that's what is so you try, you try to go into the past, you try to fix your life, so to speak, and it does not get fixed. Why? Because of programs. That's our habitual tendencies. And the Buddha actually recognizes this. The Buddha recognizes this. That's why his alternative is different from what other religions may say. Other religions says the only solution is belief in whatever they tell you to believe, and it should solve your problem. Whether you can feel it solve your problem or not, never mind. You just believe it's solving your problems, right? And the Buddha comes around and says, hang on, that's not the way, and try to give it an alternative. But before he gives you the alternative, he says, this is reality. And in fact, if you look at how the Buddha's approach is, he's not trying to sugarcoat reality. You know what's sugarcoating? He's just trying to make it sound so nice, so good, and serve that on your plate and says, wow, that is reality. It's not like that. The Buddha is telling us, you are like that, but you can do something about it. You are empowered to do something about it. That's very empowering. A lot of people think, other religions very easy, very empowering. I believe so well, and then everything just miraculously happens for us. I'm telling you, well, that's not very empowering. You're still depending on somebody to do it for you. But Buddhism is empowering. You do it for yourself. You can. But there are, in Malay we say, in Malay we say ada caranya. There is the approach. Okay, so back to this. Habits and control. How does this work? Trying to control our own habits will only lead to further fueling of the causes of dukkha, because trying to control is almost like craving. I want it, I don't want it, and so it's almost like fueling the causes. Yeah. In fact, the more we try to control, the more we reinforce our negative habits sometimes. So controlling doesn't seem to be the working for us, because when you try to control, it's like adding fuel. It's also tanha. Tanha is the cause of dukkha. Tanha means craving, wanting, desiring, controlling. That's what it means by tanha. Yeah, the word tanha is in Pali, but the Sanskrit word is tarsna. Tarsna, tanha, they are the same thing. Yeah, in Sanskrit, tarsna. Tarsna is like the English word thirst. In fact, that's where it comes from, thirst. Yeah, so thirst, never ever satisfied. Okay. Anyway, side knowledge not so important. Now, so the only way habits can be broken, according to the Buddhist way, is to apply what we call kindness. Because building good habits with kindness and an open heart leads to long-lasting peace and well-being. I will try to borrow one analogy I heard from Ajahn Brahmali. You know Ajahn Brahmali? Any of you know of Ajahn Brahmali? He is the disciple of Ajahn Brahm, and I think Brother Ang and myself, we attended the Sutta retreat, and now we are so inspired, and he says, let's have more of him. But anyway, Ajahn Brahmali gave another analogy about how our mind works, because habits actually are formed because our mind is the one that directs our behaviors, and our mind is the storehouse of the habits. Actually, put it this way, they store the information, the data that will contribute to how we behave. These are what we call by habits. And according to him, that analogy he used was our mind is something like a super tanker. You know super tanker? The shipment, the shipping, there's huge ships that actually ship the thing. So when they ship the thing, these ships are huge, and they only move in one direction. They hardly change course, because to change course for a super tanker, it takes a lot of energy and also time. In fact, for them to even make a slight turn to a different direction, it probably needs to be done kilometers way ahead of time to be able to before they actually reach the what do you call that, the docks. They actually, from what I know, is the engine has to be turned off at least many kilometers before actually it comes to a stop, because the momentum is so strong. You cannot just stop it like that one. So our mind is something like that. And there is this captain that is on the ship. This one is my own innovation. The captain on the ship is the one that drives, and you are a very concerned passenger. There's a concerned passenger there. Some of us we have our concerned passenger. And that concerned passenger goes to the captain and says, "Hey, captain, we are moving in the wrong direction. I see the other way is the correct one." And you try to challenge the captain. And what did the captain say? "Don't tell me what to do. I'm the captain. Can you just shut up? Can you just..." So that's exactly what is happening. We tell ourselves, don't do that. And here is the mind telling the passenger in our head there. It says, "I know what I'm doing. This is the correct way." All right? That's what happens. That the more you try to tell him, the more he says, "Can you just shut up? Can you don't come and tell me. I know the way. This is the right way. I've always done it this way." And here we are saying, actually, no. I know that's a better way because I heard and I also see it. But the captain said, "No, don't come and tell me. And the more we try, the more it will be. For a while, he will exile you from the from the control, and that's there you are. You have no choice. So what I'm trying to say is, the more we try to think that we can control, then we are not applying the right way. So we know, we have wisdom, we can see it already. It's a correct way. That's the wisdom side. But the wisdom is not applied in the life. Why? Because we keep trying to think that we can steer it. So what if, this is where the alternative is, what if we have another way? You are a very concerned passenger, and this time, you, as a concerned passenger, you go to the captain and you say, Captain, you're working very hard now, and then you have been working very hard for a very, very long time, and I know that you're very tired, and I know that you also, feel that, things that, why don't you take a break? Join me for a cup of tea. I prepared some nice, snacks. So I'm gonna ask you and invite you to come away from the control and come along with me. And you kind of trick him, in a sense, to come and hear you out, but you're not going to tell him anything. It says, come, join me. And maybe initially he may refuse, but then you try again and says, Captain, tell you what, I apart from tea, you don't like tea, never mind, I have coffee. And and maybe he doesn't like coffee. You use, what it means to say is, you gently go and say, and at some point, even the most hard-headed and most stubborn, so-called, captain would say, okay, all right, why not? And he comes away, and he comes with you, and you just ask him, how are you? Are you all right? And you probably ask him a lot about his family. Where do you come from? How are you doing? Why do you like to do ship? Why are you a captain here? And you show a little bit of concern. And imagine, after showing a little bit of concern, that for a while, that captain says, okay, and he starts to loosen up. When he starts to loosen up, he starts to tell you more things. He starts to tell you more things. And as he starts to tell you more things, you also have a chance to get to know him better. And he says, oh, actually, he doesn't like some of this. He prefers this. Okay, fine. Let me, I still want to get my message across to him, but let me try a different approach. Don't talk like this. Maybe tell him a story. Maybe show, and eventually, to cut the story short, eventually lead him slowly towards saying, okay, maybe let's try a different route. So in this analogy, so to speak, I'm just trying to say, that's how we apply kindness to ourselves. Because the more we try to control, actually we are just fueling what we call the negative side. But what if you have another way? What if we just take a break? We don't do anything, and we just say, let's be kind to ourselves. And let's give you something to think about. So by breaking habits, according to the Buddhist way, and this is what the Buddha's approach is, it's never about controlling, but it's all about using kindness, using compassion, if you want to call it, being compassionate about this. So when you build habits with an open heart, it leads to long-lasting peace and well-being, because now the captain wants to change course, not because you force him to. All right, and that's what it means by being kind. Okay, so I'm taking you somewhere here. I just want to lead to somewhere. So by having this understanding, then you examine, actually our bad habits have roots, or what we call unskillful qualities. They have their roots, and it's about identifying the roots and causes of our unskillful qualities. And why the word unskillful qualities is in Pali is akusala Dhamma. Yeah, Dhamma is the quality, and then akusala means unskillful. So it's unskillful qualities. All the unskillful qualities that we already have, there are roots, and the roots are, some of us are quite familiar with this, stem from what we call unskillful roots, lobha, dosa, moha, or greed, hatred, and delusion. Yeah? Greed is wanting to have or to get something you don't currently have. Hatred is wanting to get rid of something you don't like. Yeah, and moha is not knowing. It means it's quite ignorant, just like the captain, not knowing there's a new destination, refusing to see it. That's what we call by moha. It's called delusion. So thinking that they bring no harm, what's the problem? I've been doing it all this while, you know. So this is what it means by the roots. Some people translate it as the evil roots, but I think evil may have a different connotation. So I just say it's unskillful qualities. If you want to make it even more down to earth, it's about your bad habits. Yeah? But there are also roots of skillful qualities. In fact, to counter the unskillful qualities is to build skillful qualities, is to build good roots, understanding the good roots. And what are they? Very simple. They are just the exact opposite. Lobha, dosa, moha. The minute you add the word in the in there, it's actually the opposite. Non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. You know, in Pali, when you put non something, actually it automatically means the positive side. Right? So that's how the ancient Indian express. When they want to express something positive, they negate the negative. The absence of that means the positive. So that's the way they express. In English, we prefer to add the word. So we say non-greed means contentment. Yeah, being content. Dosa means non-hatred. Yeah, to be kind, to be caring, to be concerned about well-being for oneself and well-being of others. That's called kindness. And moha, non-delusion, non-ignorance. So have the right mindset about good habits. In other words, knowing that it is important that I need to move in the different direction in my life. So when we have that mindset, and then we say, how do we build that good roots? The only way in which we can allow our captain of our ship to change course is that he sees that he needs to change course. He needs to remove that delusion, and that can only come about when you stop trying to control, when we apply more kindness, when we are more compassionate, when we do not try to, I would say, beat ourselves about it. Okay, so I'll tell you some other example. There are people who believe that by doing something in their life, they can lead to better outcomes. I know of someone that they have this thing called a vow. So she is a very devout religious person, not Buddhist, and she has this vow, and she says, "I'm going to be a vegetarian." She said, "I am a vegetarian. I don't eat any meat whatsoever." And not only that, I don't eat any food that has touched meat. So including the utensils that has been used to prepare the food. So you have utensils, knife, spoon, whatever. That has been used, and you use that to cut your vegetables, that vegetables she's not going to take. So you can see how extreme some people can go to make sure that they can control the outcome of the thing. But that's not how the Buddha taught. Yeah, because the Buddha taught about causes, conditions, habits, things like that. It's a very different thing altogether. So anyway, I'll take more questions later on, but let me just complete this. So non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, and to cultivate these things is something like farming. Anyone are farmers or tried farming or been to a farm? I'm sure some of us have. I'm sure we know what farming is. What does it take to cultivate a farm? You need to put in you need to make sure the soil is fertile. You need to make the soil condition in such a way that is, whatever seeds you put there, they will actually germinate, they will grow. And along the way, you need to water, you need to, apply the right sunlight. You need to maybe even control the amount of weeds and even put in some fertilizers where necessary. And then the most important is you need to wait. I think farmers understand this. Yeah, they need to wait to harvest. Yeah, so I think so cultivation of habits is something like this. Yeah, so it's just an example. The other example is actually called reprogramming, writing a new program from today. Writing a new program, it may take a little bit of time. It may take some new effort, because why? Today's program needs different, I would say, different technology, different different approaches, and so therefore, ingredients to cultivate our good habits and good qualities and wholesome qualities, you need effort. There needs to be effort and energy that needs to be put in. There needs to be care to be developed and cultivated. Without the care, even the effort does not work. You still need to care. Just like to grow the vegetables in the farm, you need to care for them. And it also takes time for good habits to take shape and eventually bear fruit. That's how it means. And all this, actually, if you look at it, all this needs one element. And that element is still about being kind. Because if you're not kind, you probably rush things through. Try for a while, doesn't work, and then okay, not for me. Try for a while, doesn't work, and says no, I don't think I want. And try for a while, doesn't work, maybe it's not for me, I'll do something else. So you fall back because we are either trying too hard or we are impatient. Yeah, therefore it leads to those negative outcomes. But the way in which to have a very different direction in life is really, really to apply the care and the kindness to ourselves and says, okay, I am where I am right now. I can't do anything about what has happened, but I'm gonna do something today, and I'm gonna accept that this is my reality, and perhaps at some point, take the Buddha as my refuge, and that says, okay, let's do it in this way, and allow it to gradually move in that direction. So cultivating skillful qualities with kindness, care, and wisdom is a gradual approach. Just like in the Tipitaka, in the Udana is one of the in the Sutta Pitaka. Anyway, these are the utterances of the Buddha, right? And the Buddha says the ocean gradually slants, slopes, and inclines with no abrupt precipice. There's no abruptness. There's always slowly. In the same way, in this teaching and training, the penetration to enlightenment comes from gradual training, progress, and practice, not abruptly. So if you are looking for sudden enlightenment, don't have law. If you want to reset, don't have law. Yeah, there's no resetting, but there is such a thing called gradually moving and cultivating. So it's about being patient, being kind, being caring, and being gentle with ourselves and with the people around us, because sometimes we are really too hard. We are, like I said, we are our best, our own judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, we tell ourselves, I can't do this, I don't think I can, and then we tend to make all kind of judgment about other people as well. You should be like this, they should not be like this, and so on and so forth. So what's the way out? The only way out is about it's a different shift of paradigm. So it's hard to talk about these things because we are all very used to judging, evaluating, what do you call placing a label, doing something that we say that because why? It reinforces my perception, right? It reinforces my perception. She is like this, so I will I will say she will always be like this, and I will always be like this, and this is called a judgment of ourselves. So, so to cultivate is about cultivating the right kind of thoughts. Yeah, in the second noble eightfold path, we call samma sankappa. The first noble eightfold path, the first factor is called right view. Right view means seeing it rightly. Yeah, right view means I see that this is right. This is the way. Should be this way. I see that there is dukkha. I see that the cause of dukkha is this. So that's called the right view. Having the right kind of way of seeing things is the first part. That's the wisdom side. The wisdom side needs to come in. So when we say cultivate wisdom, that's what it means. It's not about knowledge. It's about seeing things in the right way. Seeing that this is true, this is right. The wrong view is seeing it wrongly. This is not important. These are not the way. This shouldn't be this way. I don't think there's anything wrong with what I'm doing. That's called wrong view. But if you say, okay, things are not moving that way, but I'm going to cultivate it this way, then you're having right view. Once the wisdom side, the right view is established, this is important. Right thought. What kind of thoughts we place into our mind? What kind of things do we plant inside there? It's like the passengers just now. What kind of things he whisper to the captain? You know? So if you whisper all the negative things, telling him you shouldn't be like this, why are you like this? How come you're not doing what I tell you to do? You're a stupid captain. You're not right. You know, that's called wrong thoughts. But if you apply right thoughts, then you say, okay, what are these right thoughts? According to the sutta, and this is from Samyutta Nikaya, the right thoughts are three: Nekkhamma sankappa, abhyapada sankappa, avihimsa sankappa. Renunciation, goodwill, harmlessness. Nekkhamma means renunciation. Renunciation means, what does renunciation means? Renunciation comes from contentment. I don't need so much of this, so I'm going to let it go. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to simplify. So renunciation actually means to give up something. Why you give up something? Not because I reject it, but because I don't need it anymore. Okay, I don't need it anymore. So all the burden that I carry about my past, I don't need it anymore. Okay, abhyapada sankappa means goodwill. Having abhyapada means ill will, hatred. Yeah, goodwill is meaning goodwill. Yeah, how nice if everybody got goodwill towards each other. And avihimsa, vihimsa means to harm. Avihimsa means not to harm. So I'm going to borrow Ajahn Brahm's way of expressing this by putting it very simply, which I love this. I owe a lot to Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Brahmali because they make it so relevant and so simple. And he says, these are the ways in which we can, this is the real practice here called make peace, be kind, be gentle. Make peace with what I have, what is happening around me. Don't be too hard or too controlling or too, I would say, too dissatisfied. Just make peace with it. It's okay. It's almost like saying it's all right. Then be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. And be gentle. I like this one. Be gentle means the Buddhist way is really a gentle way. It's all about being kind, being gentle, being open, and just allow things to be rather than trying to, always want certain outcomes in a certain way only. So kindness, coming to the end soon, kindness allows us to have space and time to care. With kindness, we allow ourselves a little bit of space, a little bit of time to care. People who don't have kindness in the heart, very hard for you to care for others. Okay, so if you talk about compassion, that's what it means. When you make peace, be kind, be gentle, then you notice actually you have less burden, mental and emotional burden. You have time for others. You have time for yourself and you have time for others. And people I notice who take time for themselves, they actually have a lot of time for others. I know some of the the doctors. Some doctors, they really don't have time for you. No offense against doctors here, but uh, I'm just saying in general. Sometimes I go to some specialists and they really have no time for you. They quickly diagnose you and tell you what is wrong, 5 minutes, and then they know what it is, and then that's it. Go and make an appointment, do the surgery. But I've also known some others who actually do take a little bit of time to try to understand the patient a little bit more, apply a little bit more care and concern. Yeah. So kindness allows us to have space and time to care. Wisdom gives us the ability to discern our experiences clearly and make good decisions. So we actually need both. Wisdom and compassion are cultivated together. You need both. You can't have wisdom if there's no kindness. You can't have kindness if you don't have wisdom. You don't know what is right and wrong. How can you be kind? But if you know what is skillful, what is unskillful, you can then be kind. And when you are being kind, then you give yourself the space to also make better decisions. So wisdom and compassion and cultivate it. So why is kindness? The kindness that comes from knowing what is right and wrong, caring for what is most important. Kind wisdom, wisdom that comes from being compassionate, to care and to be gentle. And I'd just like to end by the quote by Ajahn Brahm: great compassion that we teach is not just for all sentient beings, it's for all experiences also. How we experience things in life, if we can have that kind of compassion, that can lead us a lot more slowly moving our captain towards the direction that we want to take. And it's going to take not just one day direct session with him, not just one tea time with him, but multiple times, multiple treats, and consistently just being kind. And eventually, even he will come and ask the passenger, when is the tea time? And eventually he may say, okay, you don't have to invite me, I will be there. And he will make tea. And he will say, okay, we will move in that direction. But the initial stage is still us. We have to start to say, okay, life is like this, things are moving this way. How can my life be different? How can things be, moving in a different direction? Then with that in mind, then we apply a little bit of compassion. And you notice that when we start to do this more, you start to have more openness, less preconceived. When we have a lot of judgments and all that, when we have somebody who needs us, we somehow can't offer that kind of course we still have concern for the person. So what do we do most of the time? When we are not kind to ourselves, we have all these preconceived notions, and most of the time we will do this. I told you before. That's why you must learn more Dharma. That's why you need to cultivate better karma. You are like this because of your karma in the past. Of course, we are saying all the right things. But what is missing? The heart is not there. So there's no compassion. And that's no fault of us, because we are habitual. We're habitual. We like to tell people, and we know. But what if we cultivate to the point that we can even be compassionate to ourselves, compassionate to all our experiences? And that will be a very different feeling altogether. Let's borrow Ajahn Brahm's story again, and because I love this one very much. Two stories, just to one is about and remember, some of you may have heard Ajahn Brahm's talk about the lady who had a very presentation. She went to the office of the client, and she had a very important presentation to do. And the CEO of the company was very well known for being a terrorist. Very terrorizing. Sometimes we do have corporate terrorists in our midst sometimes. So everybody he meets, he would just dismiss them, tell them off, and even apply all these all these bad words and harshness and many things like that. So many people are terrified of him. And she has heard so much about him from all the colleagues and all the people in the industry. She was very, very, very nervous. But because she has practiced somewhat recommended this way of being kind, being gentle, and being compassionate, right before the presentation, he was still in another meeting, and you can hear him. In Malay, we say taroking, just scolding and giving it all. And then there she was, while waiting for her turn. Instead of rehearsing what she's going to say to the CEO, this is what she did. She sat down and she just be kind to herself and told herself, whatever happens, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be kind to myself in this thing. I've done all that I need to do. All that is to be done now is just to do what is necessary. I'm all right. He's all right. And there's no fault of his. It's no fault of mine. I'm all right. And she applied that kind of kindness to herself, and the practice of metta, to be loving, to be caring. And by doing so, she actually calmed herself down, and she had a very I would say she may not feel it at that point in time, but I think that's where she steered her captain to that direction, and because her heart is a little bit more relaxed, more at peace, that CEO came into the room fuming with whatever and almost like wanting to say, what are you doing here? Why are you here? What is happening? You shouldn't be here. Of course, he's going to be more dramatic than that, but I won't dramatize so much. And this was what she said to him without her knowing. And she said, you have beautiful blue eyes. They look just like my son's eyes. It just came out. Not because she choreographed it. That was not in the script. Her script was about her presentation, what she wanted to say, all the things. And that caught the CEO off guard, and immediately it says, okay, within the presentation was only a few minutes, and he just say, okay, give it the order. Of course, that was dramatized by Ajahn Brahm in a very different way. What the message of the story is very simple. Kindness pays, because when you apply wisdom, you apply kindness. Wisdom tells you this is important. Let's do this. Kindness will also help you to make better decisions, called wisdom. Yeah. So this is, I think we are just trying to say, at the end of the day, we are habitual creatures. The only way that we can move in a different direction in our life is wisdom. That's what it means by cultivation of wisdom and compassion. Okay, it's going to be a journey, and it's very helpful if we have friends along the journey. Okay, so that's my little simple, hopefully not too boring presentation.